Hi guys, welcome to Real Football Talk. I'm your host Hassan. I have Adil, David, and Michael with us. We'll be discussing Luton game against Reading, where it ended as a 0-0 draw, unfortunately. Michael, what was your take on the game?
Well, I was a bit anxious, to be honest, before kickoff, that the boys put in so much effort against Watford. And I just thought, well, are they going to actually physically have the capacity, the stamina, etc., to do a repeat performance? And actually, from the get-go, it was, Saturday relived. I mean, they once again were really, really strong and very athletic and really up for it. And interestingly, Reading, bearing in mind they were desperate for the points in terms of their playoff aspirations, just had no answer to our play, our closing people down, and and again, it's one of those games going in at half time. You think, how come we haven't managed to squeeze a goal?
But that's the thing. We had the best chance of the game, and we kind of blew it.
Yeah, I mean that has been characteristic of the frustration of watching the team this season. In that the chances in the Championship, there aren't that many, and you've really got to grab them. And I think that has been the one failing, if you like, consistent failing of the team throughout the whole of the season. And our goal difference, reflects that. We've still got a minus goal difference. And that's simply because we just don't score very many goals. We don't concede that many, but when you do lose as many games as we had, you end up with a negative goal difference. So a bit frustrating, but I thought, again, lots of really strong performances, and defensively, bearing in mind, Reading, put 4 or 5 up past us this time last season. So I think there's always a sense this could have been a bit of a bogey team for us, but yeah, I thought we once again played extremely competitively and well against one of the top fancied teams in the league. I think the Reading supporters must be incredibly frustrated because they had a fantastic start to the season. Then they went off the boil, and now they're on the fringe of the playoffs, and it looks like they've blown it.
But it's an interesting point you make about Luton and the amount of goals they score and they concede, because our goal difference, I think, is -10. And in terms of, if you look at how many we conceded, I think we're the 7th best in the league.
Yeah.
And in terms of the amount of goals scored, I think we one of the worst. I think we're 20th place.
Yeah.
So that kind of shows why we are at what level. Kind of everything comes in the middle. So
yeah.
Well, does it not bring us back to what Adil said a few games ago, where he said that the tactics we deploy, the pressing tactics, do mean we don't have that many players in the box at any time. And, generally we don't have that many players in the box. In fact, very often you're only looking at Adebayo. Other players will make a run to get into the box, but it does make it difficult. And until we had Adebayo, we had James Collins, who's an excellent player, but he is not quite quick enough at this level to capitalise on that many chances outside the 6-yard area, you might say.
But that's the thing, David. Yeah. He is the top scorer with 9 goals, and the person after that is Adebayo on 4.
Yeah.
Each played. Adebayo played half the game as James Collins. So
he's only played 10.
14,
11 now.
14.
10 or 11.
I checked it yesterday. It was at 14 that he has played.
Probably including cup games.
I don't think he's played 10 league games. But he's got a good strike rate from that number of games. And given his youth, given the fact that he's just come out of Walsall's side, you've got to say that his performances have been spectacular, I think he's given us a completely different method of creating chances and scoring them. And I think it augurs well for next season. But one thing that struck me a bit about yesterday's game was that even though the defence was broadly very strong, there were a number of occasions where we were, to my mind, over-elaborating in defence and either got caught and got away with it or nearly got caught and got away with it. And many of those occasions were down to Pearson over elaborating defensively. That worried me a bit.
I mean, he almost cost us a goal. That one, if he didn't handball it.
Yes, in the first half when he was on the right wing, he massively over-elaborated. Got caught. They got the free kick. Should have done a lot better with it than they did. Yeah. But I mean, he remains, to my mind, I wouldn't call him a weak link because I think that he does some really good stuff as well. But there is this slight tendency when we're playing out from the back to get caught. But anyway, I'd like Ardil to give us his assessment.
Yeah, I mean, agree with all the points. I think it's Luton style, which is to play precise football. So I think it's never going to be where we're going to we play quite open from the back, and we do push a lot of players out wide. The idea is quite similar to the way Pep plays with Manchester City, which is all about having numbers in midfield and options, but not necessarily options in the box. So then, so it's very precise football. That's why I'm not surprised by the lack of goals we score, and obviously it's Luton Town. Since I've been watching them a bit more regularly, I'm just really amazed by how tactically astute the team is. How, I mean, yesterday they changed it again, and the thing is, they're so subtle in the way they change it that it's not obvious straight away that they're not playing a diamond today. They're playing it slightly different. So like today, what they did was they had Clark playing more up as a second striker. So soon as we had the ball, he went into the striking position besides Adebayo, and Bree was just pushing forward. So that it's kind of effective. They're playing more a 3-5-2.
Which is exactly what I think, Mike. I think you were suggesting you'd like to have seen him playing some number 10 role. And he looks good in that position. He looks much better as a forward player than a defender, to my mind. As a wing back, I think he's slightly suspect. As a right winger or as we saw yesterday, in effect, number 10, he looks very impressive.
His crossing is excellent. He always puts crosses in that you can challenge. You can challenge it. They're in the right area. They get the right, they float nicely in. So I think definitely he's got good crossing.
No, I mean, he's a brilliant acquisition, I've got to say, because he came from Accrington Stanley, and he's definitely stepped up from the mark. Yesterday's performance wasn't quite as good as Saturday's, but then Saturday's I think was exceptional, and I know he looked frustrated being substituted. The ball just didn't quite run for him on occasions, and that I think applied to a number of our players. And I don't want to start criticising the pitch, although some managers have said the quality of the pitch at Kenilworth Road isn't great. But the ball did seem to get stuck under people's feet, didn't quite get to where it was supposed to go, bounced awkwardly.
Yeah, it looked really bouncy pitch.
Yeah, and you just, I know the ground staff water it regularly, and there's lots and lots of grass on it, but you just wonder how good the playing surface is in view of the way things have gone over the last 2 seasons.
You know what they say? I mean, what they have done historically is to relay the pitch in the closed season every year. And they haven't been able to do that, of course, this time around. So in effect, they're playing on a pitch that is probably worn out. I know I always listen to the opposition commentary because it's quite interesting having their viewpoint on it. And the Reading commentators were scathing about the pitch, albeit they were not exactly complimentary about anything we did. They were so focused on Reading, apart from Adebayo, by the way, who they loved. But that could be a contributory factor. Going back to Jordan Clark, I thought he was he did very well with the chance that he missed in the first half, because it would have been a fantastic goal had he put it in. He was being, in the one way he volleyed it just wide of the right-hand post. He was being challenged at the time. He had to make a run at great pace into the box. He got his foot to it. It was inches wide. And I thought he did well with that. I mean, obviously he could have done better to have scored it, but had it gone in, it would have been a fabulous goal to my mind.
Yeah, I mean, the thing about Clark is that, his mindset is to move forward always. You know, he rarely passes negatively, either square or inverse. He's quick, he's very good in the air, and as we said, he crosses the ball well. So, you know, I think overall he's definitely one of the finds. But just, David, you mentioned about the Reading commentary. Did you pick up the point that when their goalkeeper mysteriously had a rest?
Yes.
You know, that the Reading commentary team speculated that they hadn't got a clue what was going on, why they weren't winning. So they decided to have a 3-minute team talk, and he faked an injury, which I think, again, going back to your point, Alan, about the tactics. You know, well, what's going on? We should be winning this match. You know, come on, lads. So the goalkeeper falls over.
Again, wasn't it? You said it earlier that, you know, they pressed from the word go, and they just denied them any opportunity to do anything with the ball, and looked horrifically ordinary again, as Watford did.
Again, the pressing was completely different to that against the Watford. They done it in a different way. And this is the thing that surprised me, is how tactically aware the players are.
How did they do?
Even on the ball, they do so many things that is variations they have. So sometimes when Dewsbury Hall dribbles with the ball out, and he only dribbles down the left-hand side, what you straight away see is Tunnicliffe coming across and sweeping and covering for him. And, you know, just these little rotations that you see Luton do, they're all hard graft on the training ground. I mean, for every player to be, and you're not seeing people calling each other to cover for me, or I'm doing, they just naturally see awareness of each other's position, awareness of what each player is doing is there. And that's, like, as a manager, as a coach, that's really hard to do, to get a whole team in sync with each other, that when one player goes here, how it affects everyone else, and the movements that they make is a highly well-drilled team. I mean, but I think...
Yeah, and, you know, it really says something to my mind. We've got a minuscule budget by comparison. We think of Barnsley as a small team. They're actually incredibly rich. They've got a really rich owner. They're talking about buying the chap DK. They're forward for 17 million. We, with probably the smallest or the second smallest budget in the division, are outplaying just about every team we're playing at the moment. We're not just outplaying them a little bit, we're really, really outplaying. And that tactical awareness has to be key to it, I thought.
Yeah. And I mean, with that, again, sort of mentioning individual players, I thought Pele had another
great
spectacular game. You know, as I think I said last time, he sort of drives us all mad at times. And, you know, Nathan has said, you know, he's never quite sure where the ball's going to end up, you know, in the net or in Rose Ed. But his performances over the last couple of games, and his
also Naismith was absolutely brilliant.
Absolutely. Yeah. He's
man of the match, I think.
Yeah. What I was saying after the game was that it's incredible the way he sort of drifts past people as if they don't exist. And I think they're even quite shocked, some of these defenders, that he's attempting to drift past them. And his positional play is great, his heading is excellent, and his distribution is first rate. Again, the recruitment team done a fantastic job with him. You know.
And the thing with Naismith is he had the most difficult task, because Mete would have been in the head of all the Luton players, because he scored 4 against us last time on his own. So and he kept him quiet, and to the point where they moved his position in the second half. They moved Mete to the 10 position because he was so ineffective against Naismith. And Naismith was winning the ball every time Mete got the ball.
Yes.
So that's how impressive Naismith is. And even I like his distribution. He plays risky passes into Dewsbury Hall. He's happy to, take those risks, and it's calm in possession.
To a point you made in your previous statement about the players covering each other, do you think maybe that's also kind of taking away the players from the advanced position, that we need to have more of a chance to create more opportunities for them? Because obviously if everyone's really looking to cover each other, there's not enough players in the box where we need people when the crosses go in. Or
the thing is, they're covering each other in the central zone, but actually Luton are committing to a lot of players playing forward. So that's the thing, is it is very adventurous as well, because they leave two at the back, both fullbacks go at the same time. You only have one midfielder sitting, and he's not sitting deep, he's sitting in midfield. So effectively you have well, eight other, no, not eight, you have at least what, six other players attacking, or seven other players joining in the attack. The only thing is they don't attack into the box, they attack either out wide and around the box, and they leave Adebayo in the box. But so it is adventurous in terms of how much players they commit to attacking. But like I say, it's a bit like the City way, which is you're keeping a lot of players in midfield to dominate the possession. Not necessarily those players are moving on into the box.
But this is what I was going to say. Do you think it's for that kind of like the counter press, if and when the ball comes out, so that the Luton players can straight away win the ball back? Is that what it's more down to?
I'm not sure, because obviously I think that's just the way Luton attack. They're very adventurous when they attack. They commit a lot of players forward, but it's not the box.
Sorry.
No, it's fine.
How do you think Nathan Jones compares in terms of his tactical awareness with other managers in the division? Because you know, we are extracting more from our players than perhaps other teams are. Do you think that's down to him?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think the last two games prove it. We've just played Watford, who beat Norwich, so I think, you know, we can say maybe that's a one-off. But I think Luton is that type of team. Every good team, or every team that looks to play out, struggles. Even in the second half, Reading had slightly more joy with the possession and everything. It's because they started to go direct. And there was no more short goal kicks. Every goal kick was pumped into our half, and they're trying to play off that, because they know the way we press, they couldn't figure it out how to beat our pressing, and the way and that tells you when a team can't figure it out. That shows you how tactically clever the players are, and the training is that Nathan Jones is doing. Because you know, Watford have been stifled. We watched Derby get stifled. There hasn't been a game where, even if we go way back to the FA Cup, I mean, Luton, you know, you look at the amount of games Chelsea have dominated and looked comfortable in. They didn't look comfortable against Luton.
No, the scoreline was a bit generous to them, wasn't it?
I mean, it's the end quality that they have, and you know, but you know, they did not win that game with 70% possession and comfortably just playing it around and knocking the ball around. They were in a proper fight. I mean, a game there, and you look at all the Premiership games, they're winning comfortably. A lot of them. Bar one, they've won every game comfortably. So
yeah, I mean, I think it says something about the level of fitness of the team, because there were, I think earlier in the season, there were a couple of games where we lost right at the end, or we conceded right at the end, and although obviously there's a lot of pressure towards the tail end of the game yesterday, we seem to be able to maintain that level of fitness and consistency right to the 95th minute. And again, that must come from what happens on the training ground and all the pre-match preparations. The levels of concentration and effort is maintained throughout the whole of the game. And I know Nathan, I think it was against Blackburn, was it, where we conceded very late on. He was absolutely furious because it was just a momentary lapse and bang, goal in the back of the net. Now that has stopped happening. So it's, you know, he was saying last night, we have developed and we've grown, and I think he's right. You know, I think he's right.
What do you think about what the Reading commentators were saying, where they said that his tendency to go off the beam end and have a sort of an apoplectic rage, sometimes for no apparent reason, is distracting to the players? I mean, did you guys pick up on the fact that the Reading commentators commented on it? If you were listening to the Luton commentary, then you wouldn't have necessarily heard that comment, but he does. You can hear him quite often in games, absolutely going ballistic, and I wonder whether that's a good or bad thing.
I think it's always dependent on the players and the relationship you have with players, and sometimes managers act and do those things because that's what keeps the players on their toes. So if that relationship and that understanding is there, I think it's perfectly fine. It's when the players don't agree to it, that's when it's a problem. But the way Luton are performing, I think it's perfectly fine. I mean, there's no one way to success. We've seen many different styles, different types of characteristics in managers and they're successful. It's more down to how much the squad accepts it. And definitely this squad is buying into everything Nathan Jones saying.
I think his behaviour is in Nathan's DNA. I don't think he can control himself, quite honestly.
Shows the passion, though. Shows the passion.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
That's
absolutely.
what you want. When you see, as a player, when you see your manager so passionate, it motivates you.
And
well, that was one of the frustrations, I think, with Graham Jones, was that, you know, we were losing games and he was telling us how well the team had played, and great, yeah, we just lost again, and there seemed to be absolutely no passion and endless reference to statistics and how far the players had run. Yeah, they'd run around without the ball, and we lost game after game. You know, so with Nathan, yeah, there is that passion, and yeah.
I think it's needed more now, because the position where Luton Town is, the players could switch off. They've gone, they're not really fighting for anything other than league position. So I think it's probably actually needed. That passion is needed more right now, just to make sure that the players don't start thinking about the postseason, and, you know, they're still playing and fighting for the shirt. And that's why even in the post-match comments and before the game, you can hear Nathan Jones talking about players playing for their shirt, thinking about who he wants to keep for next season, because he knows motivation could become a problem because of where they're so comfortable in the league right now. So I think it's really good. I think it's probably...
You're absolutely right about yesterday, aren't you? They went out, like, as Mike said, like an express train, and that was a team that was definitely motivated for a match that didn't matter at all. It really was.
Yeah.
But I mean, on that and the statement you made about next season, and he's planning for next season and who to keep, is there a need for a number 10, would you say, or a creative player to kind of unlock defenses and create more clear-cut chances? Because I was looking at the stats yesterday in terms of how many big chances Luton create per game. They only create 1.5 big chances per game, which is not many if you look at it. And another point I looked at was the amount of big chances we miss. Now, if we compare the two strikers we have, James Collin has missed 16 big chances. And in terms of Adebayor, he's missed 5. Obviously, he hasn't played as many games. But there is a lot of chances that we're missing and we're not creating enough. So is this a position that we need to look at for next year to maybe kick the team into that next level?
We've got to replace Dewsbury Hall, who is very creative. On the assumption we can't keep Dewsbury Hall, which I think most of us think we can't. I mean, it'd be fantastic if we can hang on to him. But he's very creative. I mean, every time he gets the ball, he's got that strategic vision. He's been slightly off the boil since his purple patch 10, 12 games ago. But even then, you know, his ball control, his vision is extraordinary.
He's playing slightly deeper too, though.
He is,
yeah.
Yeah, that's I mean, I think we need another player there.
We definitely
rely on one player to unlock every game.
Yeah. But we're going to lose Dewsbury Hall, so we need to replace him. And the successful teams have those creative players in the middle of the park that can make those incisive balls, but also that we've got players around them that know those passes are going to be made. Because part of it is pushing a ball into space and being confident that someone is going to run into that space and make the most of it. And I think, you know, Hassan, that looking at those statistics, I think we can all sense the frustration of the chances that have been missed. And the reason why our goal difference is -10 is because we've missed so many of those chances. I don't know how that compares with other sides in our position in the league. But as I was saying earlier, in this particular division, there are so few chances, and we haven't had a centre forward with a bit of a purple patch that's been banging the ball in left, right, and centre. It has been really hard work, and I think if we could be a bit more successful in front of goal, obviously that will make next season a completely different kettle of fish, I think.
I think the key is the way Luton are dominating games off the ball and on the ball. I really think, two top-end quality signings could make the difference. Yeah. If you look at the teams that are challenging, or even if you look at Reading, I mean, they got Ejara, they got Mete, they got Lucas João, who was injured yesterday. They've got that, and they're all highly rated players. I mean, George Puskas was expected to take over as the main man of Romania. The next Hagi, they thought at one point when he was at Inter Milan. So they've got some actually really superstar players in their team. If you look at Norwich, they got that creativity in Buendia and Cantwell. I think Luton Town are a team that could really challenge if they can buy that one or two quality players, maybe one out wide, one in the 10 position, because their game is set up to dominate teams, and they just need that extra bit of maybe pace, power, that player that can beat a man, and because they beat teams through a system right now. Mm. There's no cheating in their game. Like we always say as a manager, when you have a player with pace, you can cheat any system.
Yeah, I think the difficulty on that recruitment issue is
player is that much more better.
Yeah, the affordability of a player like that.
I mean, the closest thing you have is Loire.
Yeah. I mean, this is why we probably need to finish a bit higher, so we do get a bit more prize money, maybe. So it is a motivation to look forward to. I mean, before we end up finishing, there's something I want to touch up on really and get you guys' view. David, what did you make of the top six from the Premier League and the breakaway European Super League?
Well, I was utterly furious. The greed of it is beyond belief. And I think they should suffer a really serious sanction. Now, that could, to my mind, that could include, and it might be regarded by some as suicidal for the rest of the clubs, but expulsion. They're quite happy to leave everybody else to sink or swim, and it would probably be sink, you don't know. They should be put at risk themselves of sinking by virtue of what they did. And if that doesn't happen, there should be a colossal financial fine to fund grassroots football. 300 million each, 500 million each. They can afford it ultimately. I think back at the penalties that were levied upon us when we committed what were pretty minor financial irregularities that we owned up to the league in any event. These clubs, it's greed beyond belief. I'd be very interested in everyone else's viewpoint.
Yeah, I mean, I shared David's view. I mean, I suppose the only thing I'm surprised about is that they're the owners of these clubs who are so detached from the supporters, the grassroots supporters, particularly in the UK, that they've actually backed down, because it is all about money and the global nature of the teams we're talking about. Someone was saying Manchester United have got millions of supporters in China who are no doubt paying to watch them play on TV. And, they don't, you've got millions and millions of supporters that are paying every week to watch your team play in China. Well, if Old Trafford's full or not, does that really matter? And I think, so I'm surprised. I'm not surprised that it happened. I think it's been coming for a while, and it is complete and utter greed. I'm just a little surprised that they have backed off so quickly because of the grassroots reaction being so negative. And I'm sure it hasn't gone away. That's the only thing I would say.
No, they'll come back to that. What do you think?
I mean, we touched on it in two podcasts on the subject over the last few days, but I think the only reason the owners backed down was because the government got involved. And once the government got involved, they realized there's no way out. That's the only reason. I mean, it's clear from the fact that they signed up to this without any consultation with fans, that they actually didn't care about fans. And I don't think it's the protest that actually... I think the protest has given them a way to try and, make themselves look better in the situation as if, oh, we've changed our mind because of the protest.
Yes.
Actually, it has nothing to do with the protest. It's totally to do with the fact that government wasn't going to allow it, and they realized it. There's no way of this going ahead if our government gets involved, because then we don't even have the courts backing us.
But the other,
it's funny you say that. Sorry, the reason why I say is there's reports that one of the owners from the top 6 club, he doesn't even know the color of the team's kit. I mean, this clearly shows how disengaged they are with the team.
But the funny thing is, you know, Hassan, that the Premier League have sort of come out of this looking like the shining knight. But the reality is, in my opinion, the creation of the Premier League pretty much destroyed English football. We have even now what is a bit like a Formula One procession, where there are only really 6 teams that can ever win the Premiership. No one can get near them. And it's even reached a point where in the Championship, if you come up from League One, if you come up without a wealthy owner, your chances of staying in even the Championship are pretty slim, which is why Luton's achievement is so incredible to my mind.
But I think, David, that's not necessarily the case, because if you look, the reason why the top 6 wanted this is because teams like Everton, Aston Villa, Wolves, West Ham have the ambition to close the gap. They're all now getting their own big stadium. So because of the amount of money there is, if you utilize it more smartly like Luton do, you can close the gap. Currently, Leicester are 3rd. West Ham were 4th for most of the season.
No, I realise.
I think that's what the problem is there's clubs and there's setups that are using their money better and identifying players better than the bigger clubs. And now, because of the amount of money the teams are making, they can now compete for players, maybe not at the top end, not for world class, but anything below world class. You can see Everton, West Ham, they can compete for those players. So I think that's the real reason why. It's the competitive.
Can you realistically see them winning the Premiership? I mean, as things stand, I know Leicester did, but it was almost a miracle. In fact, it has been widely regarded. Can you see?
I think so. I think one of those teams can. It's not a monopoly anymore because of sports science, scouting, the improvements in those areas, and there's no shortage of talent. It's about developing that talent, and because there's so many European coaches now who are maybe better at developing talent or better at tactical systems, you're seeing those gaps getting closed now. So I think the real reason is that they're really worried about the current state. It's going to become a top 10. No one's going to be talking about top 6. The Aston Villa owners are very rich, willing to put in money. West Ham, they have a good finances. Everton's owners, spending 500 million on a brand new stadium. It will become a top 10 soon, and they know that. In the current setup, Arsenal are 10th.
It's the fears that's driven them, isn't it?
Spurs are 7th.
What about penalties for them then? Those top 6, should there be? What do you think the penalties should be?
Personally, I don't think they should get any penalties in deduction of points or anything, because it wasn't the clubs or the players or the fans who did this. It was just purely the owners acting like dictators.
But that's what happens with all clubs.
Against the will of everyone. But so I think what should happen, they should be hitting their profit margin, so they shouldn't get their prize money. And it should be used as an incentive to move the owners on. That if you have a change in ownership, we'll give you your prize money. But because we can't trust these owners, we're not going to give you your prize money for where
they should. Do you think they will, or they'll do the usual?
I don't think the Premier League has much choice. They're gonna have to work with these clubs, because ultimately these clubs are the main attraction in the Premier League. The players are the players at these clubs are the main attraction. So I think it's gonna be like all they're gonna change is voting structures and they probably won't suspend any of the top 6 chief execs being part of the advisory boards and all. Which
they're already doing, aren't they?
Yeah, and in negotiations for contracts, they're just going to exclude them for these big contracts and everything. That's all that's going to happen. I don't think they can really punish them.
Like a slap on the wrist. That's it, really. It's nothing really implicating them that much.
It's outrageous.
Yeah.
I mean, guys, we're running out of time. So thank you all for coming on. Great to talk about Luton again, and obviously get your views on the European Super League. So thank you both. Thank all three of you for coming on. And guys, do please like, share, subscribe, and yeah, please follow us. Thank you.
Thank you.